Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're finally getting back to doing some videos on Gran Turismo Sport, and we're back with a track guide for the current daily race C and a little bit of a race guide for you. So apologies for the lack of content over the last few months. Obviously with lockdown, children at home, it's been very difficult. So finally the children are back at school. I'm able to get back to doing some videos and giving you some guides and track tips to get you that lap time out of this combination. So obviously for this race we will be using the Megane trophy for the time trial and the race, because I did my lap in the time trial with this car because I believe this is the best car for the race, and it's actually a pretty good car for the time trial. Now we did this lap yesterday pretty early on in the day. It didn't take us too long to get to the lap. You'll see a little bit of a mistake at the end of the lap as well. There is a little bit of time available to improve on the lap that I'm going to do, but yeah, we're going to just try and give you some tips to try and get you the most lap time out of this as possible, hopefully get you into the 1 minute 48 at least, and then try and help you out in the race in terms of strategy that you will do for the race. Because I did notice yesterday a lot of people were overusing the soft tyre with this car. Now this race is both tyres required, so you do need to use the soft tyres and the medium tyre in the race. So that means the strategy is going to be fairly important depending on where you start, whether you start on the medium or start on the soft tyre, and how many laps you do on the tyres. Now yesterday we did see, like I say, quite a few people extending the softs a little bit too far, but we will get through to that and my thoughts on what you should do after we have gone through the track guide for this combination, where we're going to point out some of the braking zones, some of the places that you can gain some time, and yeah, let's get on with that. So obviously starting your lap, the first thing you're going to want to do is get a nice solid exit from the final corner. I think I'm actually on a lap as we join here, so we didn't actually push this final corner as well as we probably should have done, but you can see there's the previous fastest lap going over the line. You can see 48.79, not a particularly terrible lap, but yeah, we're going to go through to the track guide now, looking into turn 1, where we're going to be looking out for that 100 board on the left hand side. You're going to see it there. We're going to brake a fraction past that. Now when you're in the race conditions with slipstream, you're going to brake pretty much on that 100, just a fraction past it, obviously, because you're going to be going that little bit faster. Now what you're going to look for is that circle where you're going to see the tarmac, the tyre marks on the track already, because these are going to give you the line through the corner. You can see they are almost a racing line for you to follow going through the corner. You can see it all the way through here. You can see it on the curb there. You want to get your right hand tyre just to skim that curb, and then onto the throttle as early as you can to help rotate the car and maintain maximum apex speed and exit speed all the way down to the next braking zone, where we're going to again be looking to brake just before the 50 board on the left hand side. You're going to see it pop up just about there on the left hand side, circled, and that's when our initial braking points are going in, right at this point on the track. And downshifting into third gear just before the apex there, holding the line as tight as you can while carrying speed through the corner. It's a pretty tricky corner to get exactly right, because you want to carry the speed through here, and you're going to see it onto that throttle, accelerating through here, and then into this very tricky section. Again, you're going to be going briefly up to fourth, then back down to third, and you're going to put a tiny bit of braking input here just to keep the weight on the front of the car and help that transition as you go through these corners, and try and keep the car as close to this left hand side as possible, because then that is going to enable you to take a better line once you get onto the brakes. So you can see it already onto the brakes. I like to brake it nice and early for this corner, because you want to get the car into this apex as close as possible. You do not want to run wide through this corner. Keeping it nice and tight and early on the throttle is very key to lap time here. If you run wide there, you do tend to lose a couple of attempts. So now we're going into this very tricky left hand corner. This is probably my most hated corner on the track. It's all about getting that line early into the apex, but you've got to extend it wide. So you can see I'm going to use that curb on the right hand side as highlighted to chuck the car in, and then you're getting your left hand tyre to try and skim the curb here on the left, and that will give you a little bit more traction through the corner. You'll see skimming that curb, it'll bite the car in, and then you'll be able to take a little bit more speed through the corner. But that is one of the trickiest corners, I would say, on the track to get right. When you do get it right, you gain a lot of time, but if you slightly get it wrong, your lap is over. Now into the next braking zone, we're going to use that left hand direction board just after the 100 board and in between the 50 board to use as our braking reference. We're braking just past it there. You can see just a fraction past it, our initial braking inputs going in, and then slowing the car down very carefully as we go into the apex. I actually turned in too early and slowed the car down a bit too early. You can see the red line is where I'm actually taking the car. The purple line is where I would have rather had my left hand tyre. And you can see because of that, it's a little bit slow on the power. Unfortunately, probably lost half a temp to attempt there, where we didn't really get the exit speed perfect, but we're still on an okay lap going down into this tricky right hand corner again. just before the 50 board on the left hand side, we're going to be putting that braking input in and then trying to get that right hand tire to skim this curb on the right hand side. Again, you really need to get it just to skim that curb where you can see the tire tread has placed on the curb there. You want to just squeeze it in there and just use the full track width here. It's very important to try and use the maximum track width to give you as much momentum through this corner. You can see using all the track available there, then chucking it in here, and we're staying in 4th gear, then down to 3rd gear, and we're going to try and again get the right hand tire to get onto this curb, because it's going to give us that little bit of extra grip again as we make our way through the corner. And then early upshift into 4th gear there, you can see understeering a little bit there. We did kind of compromise our line through here. I would have rather came from slightly wider angle, however we're carrying decent speed, so yeah, going okay so far. And then into next braking zone, you can see we're going to brake quite early here. You see braking inputs already going in. You don't want to be slamming on the brakes. This is very much trail braking through the corner. You can see there 40-50% braking and staying in 3rd gear. And again, you can see the tarmac with the tire tread line that you really want to be following. So you want to keep a very tight narrow line through here and staying in 3rd gear. It does give you better lap time than running wide, and then cutting back you do gain a 10th or so. So again, on the throttle nice and early, going to jump over the curb here. You can see using a bit of the curb, you want to use as much track as possible. You want to straight line this section as much as you can, and then braking again. We're not actually going to brake for this one, we're going to lift off the throttle. You'll see there, just as we come into this corner, I'm going to give it a little lift off the throttle, no braking inputs going in, and that's going to enable us to carry as much speed as possible as we get flat back on that throttle after we give it a little lift, just to get that weight transfer through the corner. And now again, this corner that never seems to end, we're going to just a tiny bit of braking input going in here. We're not going to be slamming on the brakes because we want to just get that front end, a little bit of weight onto the front end of the car, and then trying to get on the throttle as early as possible. I went a little bit too early on the throttle. You saw it there, got a bit of understeer, and this has cost us a little bit on the exit. You can see we got a little bit scruffy, managed to keep the power down, didn't run all the way over the grass, so just got away with it. But we did lose a 10th on that exit and managed still to get a 1 minute 48.456, I think it is there. So yeah, there's about 2 tenths left in that. I think the Megane can get a 48.0, 48.1 if you really want to push your time around here. But I was pretty happy with that. It was good enough for the top 10 stars yesterday. It won't be in the top 10 stars now, as obviously more and more people push the time trial. But yesterday, like I say, it was good enough to start us towards the front end of the grid. So this race, quite competitive. We've got a lot of the top 10 stars in the lobby here, and got some quite fast drivers. We've got Zavicic behind us, who we had some brilliant races with yesterday. Make sure you do check out his channel on YouTube as well as we work our way down into turn 1. Following P1, you can see going straight into the action here, and you're going to see Zavicic. You can see his connection was a bit iffy, and that's something, I don't know if he got lag punted from behind, but yeah, his car goes off and he's pretty much out this race. You can see once you've got a few cars back like that, it's very hard to get back into the rhythm. So unfortunately for him, he was out of this battle, but we're still in this position here in P2, and what we're going to try and concentrate on is the difference between strategies. So what you'll notice behind me, we've got a very, very fast driver behind us there in P3 who is on the medium tyres. I'm on the soft tyres, and this is going to be interesting. So we're going to try and use the slipstream of P1, because P1 was actually quite fast in this race. We did manage to improve our pace over the night. This was a little bit earlier on in the day. You can see I'm using 3 to the rear brake bias. For qualifying, I actually did use 0 brake bias, I think it was, or +1. I varied it every couple of laps, just trying to find out which was better, but I wouldn't go to +3 for the actual qualifying lap. I found +1 was pretty nice and stable for qualifying, but in the race I actually changed to +4 in the end. For this race I actually go down to +2, but like I say, we actually improved on our race pace later on in the day after Fire came into our stream and told us that he was using +4. I think he was using +5. I found +5 a little bit too much. It was a little bit too sketchy. So I would say between +3 and +4 is probably a decent way to go with the brake balance. It is going to help your tyres, as P1, massive moment on the curb there, loses control of the car and gives me P1. So this is great for me now, although I was hoping to use some of his slipstream to try and pull away from P3, who is now in P2 a little bit more. But yeah, he's on medium tyres behind us. So what you're going to see here is the contradicting strategies of mediums versus softs, and how it plays out, and how it will, you know, different points of the race where you're going to be stronger versus the mediums, etc. So the first stint, we were all about pushing, trying to get a good lap in here, a solid lap. A good lap is probably a 50.7. I think we managed a 50.7 yesterday on our first lap once we'd got a little bit more used to the combination and we were using 4 to the rear bias as well. Does help your tyres. I really recommend it. If you can go to 4-5 to the rear, you are going to save your front tyres, and it's going to make that sixth flap a lot more impressive. And sometimes you might be able to squeeze the 7th lap out. However, my personal preference for race strategy for this daily race C is doing the 6 laps on the softs, or 4 at the end on the medium. And 4 at the end on the mediums. Now, if you do start the race on the medium tyre and go 3 laps, you might gain quite a big undercut by going onto the softs. However, you are going to have to think about the traffic. You're going to come into traffic possibly. Although with the current pit lane loss, you do lose about, I think it's about 20 seconds round here. So pit lane loss is a lot higher now on Gran Turismo, so it's a little bit more realistic. It puts you out in a little bit cleaner air. It would be nice if they made the races a little bit longer, I think now. I would be quite happy for daily races to go every hour and be a little bit longer, maybe 35 to 40 minute races with like a one-shot qualifying. You know, with the current system, I think with these pit lane distances, it would make more sense. Having a race of 10 laps with a 20-second pit lane loss is a little bit too much, I think. For FIA races, it kind of makes a bit more sense when they're going into the 30-minute distance. But like I say, for the daily races, like 19 minutes long, it seems a little bit excessive. But yeah, we do a first lap, not the worst lap, pretty solid. I think this goes over the line 1 minute 51.0, which is not an amazingly fast lap, but it's reasonable, and I think we actually improved on that on the next lap. But we're going to skip ahead to the pit lane time now, where we're going to go in the pits and change over tyres to the medium tyres. Now you can see we're going to go the full six laps. This is where I think the peak, you know, the perfect time is to pit. Really pushing the pit entry is something I recommend you do. Really practice that pit entry, because it can gain you a second by your entry speed into the pit lane. But you can see we're going to come out of the pits, and you can see that P2 is now on the soft tyres, and you can see it's only going to be a couple of seconds behind me by the time we come out of turn 1. So yeah, on the exit of turn 1, you can see that delta is 2.1 seconds. So this is going to be very interesting, because we've got 4 laps to hold off the soft tyre. Now the advantage we've got is we're on the medium tyre, which is a little bit better tyre wear. So I've put the brake bias down to 0 now. I think by the end of the day we were using +1 with the medium tyres. I found that gave a little bit better rotation through some of these corners, so maybe give that a go. But yeah, the advantage is we're on the medium tyres, which are going to wear better, and we've got much newer tyres. So I think that P2 probably pitted on the end of lap 3 or 4, so his soft tyres are going to start fading towards the end. So what I need to do on this strategy now is try and hold him off so he's not in the slipstream until at least lap 9. That is really what you need to do to make it work, and then you've got to really go defensive and try and hold them off for that final lap, because I think when you get to lap 6 and 7 on them soft tyres, fighting tyres that are only 3 or 4 laps old on the mediums, I think the mediums are pretty equal to the soft tyre at that stage. So this will be interesting how they compare, and it will show you a rough idea of that. There's not much difference in the strategies. Like I say, I think if you're starting at the back and you know you're faster, then maybe the medium tyres are going to be the way to go. Do 3 or 4 laps, try and not to lose too much time over the soft runners using their slipstream maybe, and then put the soft tyres on at the end and get an undercut, because like I say, you're going to probably come out in clean air with this current pit lane loss situation. So the more clean air, the better, especially when you're getting an undercut on the faster tyre. But you can see here, we're going over the line, and we've managed to hold him off as we now skip through to lap 9, and you can see we've got him right behind. He's almost in position to go for a move there. We managed to give him a little bit of space on the apex and still managed to get the car through there. That was a very close moment. I got a little bit worried that we might end up going off on the corner there, but we managed to keep it on track and working our way through to the final lap. Now this is going to be the hard part, is trying to keep him behind on the main straight, because obviously he's going to get the slipstream. It's all about trying to get a good exit from this final corner here. And you can see the strategies are very close. There's pros and cons to each one. Now, sometimes they're going to get past you if they start on the mediums and then they're on the softs at the end. Sometimes they're going to find it difficult. So I think it is down to your personal situation where you start on the race, as we're going to see going down into turn 1. The advantage again is we're on the final lap. His front tyres are going to be very worn at this stage. We're on mediums that you can see have hardly got any wear. So our braking performance is pretty good. We brake nice and early just in case he did outbrake himself, and yeah, luckily for myself, he braked a little bit too late. We give him the space on the exit just so we don't push him off the track, and we've still maintained that P1, which is hopefully going to be where we end up in the race, because once you've got past that position there on the track, there's not many other overtaking positions at this track. You really do need to get most of your moves done on that corner. Now there is another opportunity into this braking zone, but as long as you hold the car tight into the apex there, you give very little options for the overtake to go ahead there, and then you work your way pretty much into the only other overtaking opportunity that you're going to get on this track after this long left hand corner, which we cook up quite nicely there on the medium tyres. But you can see the medium tyre, the soft tyre there, starting to get the understeer, and he's actually ran wide there and probably picked up a penalty, so he's going to try and go around the outside, but he's going to have no grip because of obviously dirty tyres. And I just hold a nice tight line, know that I'm going to get better traction. You can see on the mirror there, he's got them dirty tyres, and this has worked out perfectly. I think he's actually picked up half-second penalty as well from running wide, where he missed the apex, obviously, sorry, missed the line and got the understeer. But now, again, there's nowhere else you can, as long as the car in front is defending well, or you're defending well, it's pretty much impossible for another car to get past through, because all you've got to do is hold a tight line, brake nice and early, keep it on the apex, and unless they push you out the way, they are not going to get past you. So yeah, it's a pretty much equal strategy starting on the mediums compared to the softs. Now, like I say, the problem with the medium at the start is if you start on the mediums from P3 and then you've got someone on the softs in P4 and 5, they could end up battling with you, you could lose time. You have to play it smart, use their slipstream, let the soft tyres go, but use their slipstream as much as possible to help out your race pace. I think that is the best way to do it if you're going to do that. But from the front of the grid, it probably is better to start on the softs and just try and get away from trouble, and then put the mediums on and hope you can defend at the end of the race. But yeah, from the back of the grid, I do recommend the mediums. And like I say, I think 6 laps is peak for the softs and 4 laps for the mediums. But with tyre saving, maybe using that 4 to 5 to rear, it is possible to get the 7 laps out the softs, but you will be fading on that 7th lap. So bear that in mind, that the car behind will get such a big undercut on you when you've got them worn softs that it might be better just to pit on that lap 6. You can pit on lap 5 also and get an undercut, but then towards the end of the race, then mediums will be starting to fade a little bit, so bear that in mind. Anyway, hope this has helped you out, hope the track guide has helped you out, hope the little bit of advice on the race strategy has helped you out as well. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, hit that notification, and we'll be back with more videos very soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone.